They have over 5,000, 10,000 newsletter subscribers, and not a single person has gotten a book directly from them because they haven't started working on it yet. But now, we're all coming kind of into that direct sales space because we want to own our data. We want to have a better relationship with those who read from us so that we can give them more. We can give them what they want. And we can't always do that with retailers. Our hands are tied when it comes to a lot of things with retailers. There's more and more authors working on direct sales, and we're all trying to figure out how to get more direct sales. So what better way than to start a paid promo newsletter in the same vein as the rest of the promo newsletters that we use, but geared strictly for direct sales.
Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Hello, Reflectives, and welcome to episode 384 of the Stark Reflections podcast. This is your host, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. In today's episode, I have an interview with Amanda Byrd. Amanda is obsessed with fictional serial killers, from Patrick Bateman to Dr. Hannibal Lecter to Dexter Morgan and every butcher in between. Amanda loves figuring out what drives fiction's deadliest monsters. When she's not busy writing, reading, playing video games, or watching bloody movies and shows, she's working on an exciting new platform that authors can leverage to help boost their direct sales. AuthorsGoDirect is a paid newsletter, think Bargain Booksy or BookBub, specifically created and managed for helping authors increase their direct sales. If you're interested in direct sales and blood splatter and all kinds of fun conversation, you're in for a treat, and that's coming up later in this episode. First, let's hear a word about this episode's sponsor. This episode is sponsored by ScribeCount. Do you want to spend less time crunching numbers and more time writing? Or at least more time looking at really awesome, sexy pie chart type sunburst graphs? Yeah, I know you do. Who doesn't love a great graph, especially a great graph that shows how your wide sales are doing? You see, with ScribeCount, there's no need to log on to multiple retail and distribution platforms to check on your sales. You can access all the main ebook, print, and audiobook sales platforms, as well as several direct sales platforms via a single, simple interface within seconds. Oh my God, seconds. And those are seconds, whether they're American seconds or Canadian seconds or British seconds or Australian seconds or wherever. Oh my goodness, I'm serious. It's just a matter of seconds to look at this data. And ScribeCount leaves nothing out. You can see your sales across the globe. You can drill down to a single marketplace. You can see your free versus paid. You can see your Kindle Unlimited versus your non-Kindle Unlimited sales, so you can make informed decisions as a writer. You see, ScribeCount offers simple, easy to understand graphics that help you see the data you need with all the filters to go with it. There's no need to log on to multiple platforms. You can see your entire library of books in a single spot. Click the rings, drill down on a single platform or a single book. If you want to spend less time logging onto those multiple dashboards and more time focusing on what really matters, which is understanding where your books are selling so you can write more books and market your books more effectively, you should really check out ScribeCount. And you can learn more about ScribeCount over at starkreflections.ca/ScribeCount, where, yes, that's where I have an affiliate link where you can get access to ScribeCount. So check them out today. And hey, come on, share those sexy, awesome sunburst charts with me. And now comments from recent episodes. Okay, so over on Twitter, or X, and FYI, I constantly say Twitter, X, for two reasons. Because X is just a stupid name. Really, like X. Come on, what the heck is that? It's just a letter. Anyways, it's a branding thing. It's idiotic. It's Twitter, you dumbass. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the Musk character. But of course, I think it's a dumb name, so that's why I always refer to it as Twitter. That's what we know it as. And if Elon Musk, the second reason I do this is if Elon Musk ever listens to my podcast, I hope it annoys him as much as I'm annoyed by how much he destroyed a perfectly good social media platform. So there. Yeah, he's done some cool things. Tesla and the companies he's invested in have been great, but this is one of the ones where he just crapped the bed. So, that being said, over on Twitter, now known as X, at Every Library shared a link to a video clip of episode 347, where they share Mr. Kraska discusses book bans in an interview with Mark Leslie, shared a clip from that episode, and this is a fantastic interview with John about Every Library and the amazing things that they can do. And if you're curious, there are simple things you can do to help fight book banning in America. There are 3 things you can do. You can sign and ask your followers to sign and share an online petition. You can let your followers know that there's free help if they want to organize and fight book banning in their local community. And of course, you can encourage followers to donate and share. And I will leave links to that in the show notes over at starkreflections.ca. So for that same episode, at Edwin Downward on Twitter says, this week's Stark Reflections with Mark Leslie talked about libraries and book banning. Though it had a very US-centric focus, and Edwin, like myself, is Canadian, the core issues are global in nature. What I took away from it was how any system used to ban one idea can easily be tweaked to ban other ideas. Then there's the way a book ban can be twisted into incorporating an entire group because they somehow align with some aspect of the banned book. What I like to call using a wide brush or a broom instead of an artist brush set, because it's too much work to use a smaller one that can catch all the nuances. And that is so true. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yes, Edwin, this was very specifically Every Library in the US, but I do think, like you said, that the core issues are global in nature. Libraries are critical. They're so important. And banning books, particularly from specific groups of people in our society, is just not the way that we go to create more empathy and to create more understanding and learning about the rest of the world, which is one of the fundamental reasons why libraries exist. So thank you, Edwin, for your comments. And speaking of comments, I know that over the past several weeks as I was traveling and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, I know I had some comments that came in via direct messages and emails, and I completely lost them somewhere in the sands of time, in an overflowing inbox that is completely unmanageable, where I can't find them, in the thousands of missing Facebook messages. And oh my God, do you know how many messages I get via Facebook, like Facebook Messenger, every single day? I'm talking, I probably deal with at least, I was going to say 100, not quite 100, but half 100. Yeah, half 100, because that's a term that I'm going to use. Like half 100 messages that I have to deal with every single day on Facebook. And I don't always see them because of the convoluted way that works. So if you've messaged me over on Facebook and I haven't gotten back to you, it's probably because, like everything else on Facebook, even if you've tagged me, there's no guarantee I'm ever going to see it. You can always leave comments over at starkreflections.ca. Those are easy for me to find over on youtube.com/Mark Leslie Lefebvre, where I do post. And also you can email me, mark@markleslie.ca. But of course, no guarantee that I'm ever going to find some of those things. But if I did respond to you, I know I appreciate that. I appreciate those comments. I appreciate you reaching out. And hopefully if you did message me, I messaged you back, I emailed you back, whatever, for your thoughts. And often those messages do really make my day. And I do hope that I'm able to respond to you directly. I do like to share them here because I think some of the things that people have shared with me are extremely valuable for other listeners because they may be feeling the same thing. And that's information. It never hurts to hear, oh, wow, yeah, I thought that too. That's so cool that, Edwin said that or whatever the case may be. So anyways, thank you guys so much for the comments. It is something I do appreciate, and it helps me kind of understand what you're reflecting on when you're listening to the Stark Reflections podcast, because it's really all about those reflections, right? Okay. And I'd also like to do a little bit of a catch up. I'd like to welcome some new patrons that have joined the podcast in the last couple weeks. I want to welcome to the people who support this podcast over at patreon.com/darkreflections. I'd like to welcome Rob Johnson, Jennifer Brin, and Rasana Atreya. Rob and Jennifer and Rasana, thank you guys so much for becoming patrons of the podcast. Great to have you aboard. I really appreciate that. I want to make sure that you do have access to the additional RRS feed, the audio for the podcast. You can get access to the additional content there. I did message you directly on the Patreon platform to ask the right URL to link to, etc. But I want to say thank you to you three, as well as to everyone who supports this podcast over at patreon.com/starkreflections. It really means a lot that you're willing to step up and offer that additional support. But don't forget, you can also support the podcast just by leaving a review on wherever you listen to podcasts, but you can also share the podcast with someone that you think would find value in it. And speaking of sharing, I am going to forego the personal update. I'm going to jump right into the interview with Amanda. But before I get into the interview, I do want to let you know that, so for the first about 6 or 8 minutes, there's a little bit of audio variance happening on Amanda's side. Now, I did my best to boost the volume on those bits, but at times, there's no actual audio got picked up, so boosting nothing was going to get me just noise and static. So I did my best to adjust it a little bit. It's a little bit disconcerting from time to time. It does resolve about 8 minutes in. So about 8 minutes into the podcast, we paused. We realized there's something weird going on that we both recognized. And we played with the settings. We got it all fully adjusted. So from that point on, it's completely clear, except my mumbling, of course. It's completely clear. But just be aware, so if you're hearing that at the beginning, that only occurs for the first few minutes of the interview. And it's definitely a fantastic interview. I love what Amanda has done with AuthorsGoDirect. I always love when authors do these things to solve problems for themselves and for other authors. And I hope you enjoy listening to my conversation with Amanda as much as I enjoyed having that conversation with Amanda. And right after this bumper, you're going to hear that conversation with Amanda. Amanda, welcome to the Stark Reflections podcast.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited to talk about AuthorsGoDirect. But before we get into this awesome new opportunity, this new feature, this new promotional tool that authors can leverage, let's dig into Amanda Byrd a little bit. So in terms of you as a writer, and where did it all start for you?
It started, believe it or not, with nonfiction as a joke.
A joke?
Yeah, as a joke. So I was writing for an automotive website. I was writing the descriptions for products and their blog posts. And that was kind of how I got into it back in 2015. And then that quickly...
An automotive company?
Yeah.
A journal? Okay.
Yeah. They sell different parts and stuff. They're down here in Florida. I've been around and in the automotive industry for like my entire life. So I know a little bit about cars, and it's kind of scary. I don't work on my own anymore because it just, no, thank you. I'm good. Very good with not doing that anymore. So that's how it started. And then it quickly snowballed into fiction. I have 3 books that are currently out of print that my editor is harassing me that he wants to get his hands on at some point. And I will not let that happen because currently my female serial killers are my focus. I'll call it my flagship series just because this is where the female serial killers have started. That series, book 8, actually comes out at the end of January. And then that'll be 13 books total. And then I've got a new series that I'll be starting this year, Serial Women of History. So I'm taking different public figures and turning them into serial killers.
Oh, wow. Historic female figures that become serial killers?
Yeah. Starting with Amelia Earhart, which probably is not the best idea. But that's where that's at. And then with my new I guess full-time job, I was actually just laid off last Monday. So it's actually it's kind of perfect timing for everything right now, because now I can really work on other things. And, I've got a contract job. It's a project-based job that I do, AI chatbot evaluation, which is a whole lot of fun. But doing that spawned another at least trilogy idea, which is taking princesses that are in the public domain and making them serial killers.
Okay.
And then, of course, I had to text my editor and be like, all right, that's it. These ideas have to stop because now I just want to write all the books right now. And I know I don't have.
Well, so you were working a full-time job while you had.
Yeah. Yeah. I was working 12-hour days. I'm still working 12-hour days, but they're a lot less stressful now. A lot less stressful.
Right. Yeah. Because now you're doing it as a more of
Yeah.
a consultant or a contract position, right?
More of a contract position. It's very solitary, kind of like writing is. I don't really interact with anybody unless I have any questions posted in a Slack channel. But I don't have to be on the phone with customers. I don't have somebody telling me I'm not properly managing my time, even after they've looked at my schedule 7 times in the same day, being like, oh, okay, never mind, you are properly managing your schedule.
Right.
The fun parts are there's just a lot of different things that were stressing me out about that job, like the different pressures. They gave us a whole lot bigger workload with no compensation for it. And then I'm finding out a whole bunch of other super fun things in the past week that this company has done. And I'm like, I am so glad I'm not there anymore. Have fun, people. So yeah. So I was already working both jobs now. It's just
Wow.
plus the books and the new promo opportunity that I'm trying to finish getting up.
Wow. So I'm trying to figure out when you had time to do the writing when you were working so much.
I'm still trying to figure that out myself.
Okay.
My days usually run to be 16 hours. And then I
Wow.
take naps. Yeah. Yeah. Sleep isn't really a thing. It's
All right. And so female serial killers is your brand is
yes, blood
specifically.
spatter, serial killers. Yes, as you pointed out, was it 2019? I think it was my Dexter's boat tattoo with the blood spatter, and you're like, blood spatter is your brand, and I said, sure is. That's a you said happy accidents, and I kind of took that and ran.
That is awesome. What was the origin? What drew you to wanting to write about? I want to dig into this a little bit. So, what drew you to like what was the appeal for female serial killers? I mean, apart from the fact that it's rare, right? It's not something that's.
Right. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of fictional serial killers. Like I've got Dexter's boat. I've got Hannibal, Eat the Rude, Free Range Rude. I'm a big fan. Plus, the real life serial killers. Dahmer was probably like my number one. I do make a lot of fun of Aileen Wuornos, so my characters make fun of her as well. It's I'm like serial killers don't have accomplices, and that's how she got caught. So let's not. I don't know. Like I still don't understand the job. Ted Bundy probably never will.
Yeah.
Um,
It makes me wonder, since you were writing like nonfiction, right, for automotive, you would have I migrated into true crime and writing about real
right.
serial
You
killers.
yeah, no, because there's
No,
there's so much of that already. I wanted to do
right.
something different. Which was why, my killers are female and it's told from their POV. So I like to describe it as Dexter meets American Psycho, but female.
Okay. All right. And so in the series, just for anyone who's now like leaning forward and interested, oh, I got to check these out. I mean, it's a part of a series. It doesn't follow the same character? Does it go from
It
different?
does.
Oh,
It
it
follows the
does.
same character. Yeah.
So it's
So
like
all 13.
Dexterish. Okay.
Yeah, so all 13 books are from the Brittany Cage character standpoint.
Okay.
And you get to see, whether she's see the screws coming loose, like it's crazy. And
Right.
I thought when I sent book 8 off to the editor last month, I really thought he was gonna be like, I don't know what this unhinged disaster is, but you need to rewrite the entirety of the last, like the ending. No, he's like, I wanted to let you go and see what happened. He's like, and it looks like we don't really have to just there's some spelling mistakes, a couple of words need to be replaced. He's like, this is great. He's like, it's
Wow.
amazing. It shows how much she's actually falling apart. I said, yeah, I still have 4 books after this. So
Wow. Uh,
yeah.
because I'm remembering, my traditional book selling days. Chelsea Kane was one of the first authors who came out who actually focused on female psychopaths. Uh, where I guess they would be serial killers too, but and that was a long time ago, but it seemed to be a rarity. But then you, obviously, with independent publishing, you're able to just kind of provide the readers who can't get enough with way more, right?
Yeah, kind of like filling a gap, if you will.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I do events, people will walk up and they'll pick up a book or they'll be afraid to pick up a book. And I'm like, don't worry, she doesn't bite. Okay, except for maybe that book. That book, she probably will bite you. So I don't know if you want to pick that one. But yeah, people are like, okay, so what is it? And then they hear female serial killers. They're basically just like, shut up and take my money. And it cracks me up every time.
Oh man.
without fail. I think it's hilarious.
Wow. Wow. And so it's not enough that you're murdering people. It's not enough that blood splatter is your thing. As I throw a pen and you hear clatter on the keyboard there because I'm scared.
Can you actually see, right?
I can
Yeah,
see the
it's a
curtains.
shower curtain. It's a
Yeah.
shower curtain, and I have it on the window. Yeah,
I wanted to get those shower curtains. I wasn't allowed, but you've got them on the way. That's perfect. That would be great
yeah.
for my office, actually. Maybe I should get those.
And that's
So,
exactly why I have it. My old office was actually blood spatter painted.
oh, right. Yeah, well, I could just do it on regular cheap curtains, right? Just get some paint.
Yeah.
There you go. Or murder someone, whatever. It's a good cover up. I know I'm a writer.
Just don't get caught. You're fine.
But it's not enough that you have the 13 books in this series and you've got all these other great ideas and you're going to have a lot of fun with it. You were working a full-time job, and on top of all that stuff, that wasn't enough for you. You wanted to
No.
to create something to help authors promote their books. So,
Yes.
what
I'm a glutton
what
for
in
punishment, I think.
the heck were you thinking?
I was thinking there was a hole that we needed to have filled, right? So there's
Right.
only one newsletter that allows us to share maybe our direct sales site. And that would be Fuzzy Librarian because they have that option for other link.
Yeah.
And then I was like, we don't really have anything. Now, Rebecca Hefner has the Audiobooks Direct newsletter and website. And her and I are actually, we're going to talk about teaming up and collaborating and doing some different things together.
Right.
But it was, there's more and more authors working on direct sales, and we're all trying to figure out how to get more direct sales. So what better way than to start a paid promo newsletter in the same vein as the rest of the promo newsletters that we use, but geared strictly for direct sales. So no retailers, no affiliate links, none of that. You provide the coupon code, the link, relevant book information, and then that gets sent out to any readers who sign up. I do also ask that authors send, the website to their readers because their readers might want to sign up. I did do a fun little feedback form, asking, hey, which logos do we like better? That took forever to get situated. Meanwhile, I had the site essentially built, and then the newsletter was built, and I just did that autoresponder. What was that, last week? Kind of giving everybody a heads up on when it would start. But yeah, it's funny to see how many authors aren't really aware of if any of their newsletter subscribers buy direct from them or not. And I don't know if that's different platform limitations or what that is, because it is kind of tedious depending on the platform to see, who, okay, I have this person's email address, but I don't have their name. So now I got to search, my orders for this email address, or, vice versa, kind of compare the two. It's a pretty interesting concept, but it's great. There's people who have responded. They have over 5,000, 10,000 newsletter subscribers, and not a single person has gotten a book directly from them because they haven't started working on it yet. But now, we're all coming kind of into that direct sales space because we want to own our data. We want to have a better relationship with those who read from us so that we can give them more, we can give them what they want. And we can't always do that with retailers. Our hands are tied when it comes to a lot of things with retailers. So I know most of us offer better deals and bonus materials and things like that when readers come directly to us, because we can do that. We're not charged for it by certain retailers. We're not, because some of them do have that delivery fee on top of their cut from the royalty. And then, we just, with our direct sales site, we're making more money. We're better able to serve the reader. And there's just so much more we can do with that. We can add different swag. We can add, like in my case, I've got mugs, wine tumblers, stickers, shirts. Yeah, those go actually, those actually, I didn't do that. I got that on Amazon. Yeah. I'm sure I could have gotten it from Etsy, which probably would have been a better choice, but
yeah.
So yeah, there's a big hole, and it needed to at least start to be filled.
Wow. I love that throughout your career, you're focusing on areas that need this and you're providing it. So Books Go Direct. Now we're talking in the middle of January 2024. So Books Go Direct is still in its infancy. It's just beginning. But probably by the time this episode goes live, there's going to be a platform that's out of sort of beta, etc. Let's talk about, so what is this platform? And so obviously the importance of selling direct, but this is a platform for authors, a newsletter specifically for direct sales, not as an afterthought, not as some other link, right?
Right. So it'll only be direct sales. It's set up a lot like if you were to put it up side by side with, say, like the Free Booksy or Bargain Booksy site,
Right.
it's very similar.
Okay.
Because their navigation is really, really simple. So I wanted to keep mine really, really simple. So the homepage is, the sign up, and then you've got, reader FAQs, you've got for authors. There's a discovery page. There's the this week's books, because it will go out once a week with an automatic resend toward the end of the week.
Right.
At least for now, because it's just me doing this. So
Okay.
I don't, unfortunately, I just don't have the time or the bandwidth to do it as a daily.
Of
I'd like to grow it into a daily, but that's probably going to take some time.
Wow.
But eventually that's where I'd like to do it. I'd like to see it as a daily newsletter, just like everything else, like BookBub, like every other newsletter that there is. So on the this week's books page, that'll be, that week's books and deals. And then on the discover pages, it'll be the authors and their bios and like what the different genres and different series that they write, as well as a link to their site with,
Right.
whatever discount codes they want to provide that way. And then there's another option, another way to sign up for those emails, whether you're an author or a reader and you want to subscribe to that newsletter. And then there's the For Authors page, which has a small FAQ as well as the login for the portal.
Right.
Which that was a whole lot of not fun to set up. That the UI on that was just, some parts were really intuitive, but the majority of it is not. So I kept catching myself going back to the help articles, and
Right.
I was like, all right, I'll figure this out one day. So I think the last thing I need to beta, or maybe I'll ask the betas to do it, is test that out. Though I probably should get myself in on the author side instead of the back end.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it looks a whole lot different. What's crazy is there's no ability to preview any of this with this particular program. And I'm like, but you have everything else I need, like everything. So what's the deal here? Like, why can't I do this?
Yeah,
so
even
I think
like
I'm just gonna have to.
WordPress offers a preview, right, of what the Patreon, all the sites have some sort of preview.
Yeah, and this is a plugin for WordPress. The site is definitely WordPress, but it just this plugin particularly has been a little bit challenging. But for the price, it couldn't be beat, and the fact that it does everything that I needed to do and more, I'm like, I'm just gonna give it a shot, see what happens.
Okay. So you talked about coupons. So that's if I am selling direct and I have the ability through PayHip, et cetera, I can create my own coupon codes. I'm providing the link and the coupon code, et cetera.
Correct.
For ebooks, because we have that most favored nations clause where the price can't be different, but coupon codes get around that. Now,
exactly.
But what about authors? A lot more authors I'm talking to lately are selling print books direct.
They can put them in there too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely. I've got a PayHip and a Shopify. Now my reader facing is Shopify. My author facing is PayHip. And that's because I got really into PayHip in the beginning, but PayHip just didn't have everything that I needed, unfortunately.
Right.
And there are things that are just not on their radar for quite some time, if ever. So I jumped ship to Shopify last year, and I've got, my PayHip stuff for authors on PayHip.
Right.
But Shopify is great because there's all of the integrations are there.
Yeah.
The only one that's missing, which I actually I logged into my Ingram account today and saw an e-commerce navigation beta, but you have to send the link to your readers, which, all right, Ingram, better late than never, but also BookVault directly integrates. So I'm going to go with BookVault.
Right.
It's great just because of the integrations. I don't have to copy paste orders over. But if somebody wants to advertise their print copies, that's cool too, whether they're on discount or not. It's not going to be one of those things where I advertise the price, at least not yet. It'll just say, if there is a discount, what the discount is, like 30%, 20%.
Oh, I see. So I sign up because I'm a reader of serial killer fiction, thrillers, and serial killer fiction. And it may be an ebook link. It may be an ebook link with a coupon code. It may be a print book link. It could be all three, right?
Yep.
Okay. So is that when I sign up as an author to send out a promotion for one of my books, do I have the option to add additional, so here's the ebook link and here's a coupon code and then here's the print book link, or is that sort of separate pieces?
Right now it's set up for one link, one coupon code, book description, cover.
Right.
I think that's it.
Okay. But again, we're talking early, right? But this is very, very early.
Yeah, it's definitely in its infancy. And then the beta will help me kind of make it better. And then as we go and authors are advertising and such, feedback will be taken into. I'm fighting with Google Authenticator so I can get into the website and actually see what's going on here.
Of course.
So cover, title, description, link, coupon code, author bio, and genre details for the discovery page. That's how I've got it set up now.
Okay.
If more authors want to go ahead and advertise, audio, well, I don't want to step on anybody's toes with the audiobooks because Rebecca's got her newsletter.
Yeah.
So I think I might kind of put off just saying no to audiobooks and direct them to Rebecca for now until, her and I figure out what it is we're going to do, how we're going to do it. I don't know if we're going to figure out swaps or how we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And then print is always welcome for sure. Just no retailers, direct sites only.
Yeah. I like that idea because it's a completely different focus. And I was there in the early days when BookBub was a new thing. Right. So the concept of this newsletter, I mean, and in the early days, they obviously have grown into something phenomenally huge, but there was
they have.
There was a time when it was a new thing. And it was like,
how long ago was that?
2011, 2012-ish, maybe 2013.
Wow.
Really, really early days. I mean, I remember
so
being able to get a BookBub because there weren't a lot of people applying for them. And it only cost $300 to get one,
And now it's impossible, and it's like $1,000 for a free book, depending on the genre.
But I mean, evidence of the growth, right? So obviously, when Books Go Direct launches, it's probably going to be a smaller group of readers who are signing up for it, and then as it grows and grows and grows, and ideally, Amanda gets other people to work on it with her so that she can go back to writing books again, and that's one of the things I worry about.
Or I can use it to, between that and my books, be, I guess, fully self-employed. And then I don't have to work for anyone else because my ultimate goal is to work for the readers, right? So
fair enough. Yeah. Okay. So that would be like working on Books Go Direct and on your author stuff. But what I always worry about, especially when an author has a great idea to fill a gap and provide something for other authors, is then suddenly 100% of your focus is on helping other authors, and then you forget about you. Too many good people I know in the industry have kiboshed their own career to help others, and that's always a worry I have when I'm talking to people.
Yeah, I it's funny because I was actually under a contract with a small press, and we got into a slightly heated discussion about my stuff comes first, not what you have.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we wound up severing the contract in favor of maintaining our friendship, though the CEO is like, hey, so let's introduce my detective to your serial killer. I'm like, can you write your detective first?
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, touche. So that's kind of where we're at there. I mean, I love them. I pimp them out a lot. I pimp out their authors. So
yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So when did this idea happen? And then obviously we're talking in January, and then you're in the process of implementing it. Like, how long was it gestating before you decided, I'm going to do this?
It just kind of popped up in maybe November, right around Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And then I reached out to you to run it by you before I started doing anything. And now we're here.
Oh, cool. Awesome. And so where would you want to direct authors or readers to go to if they're interested in learning more about Books Go Direct?
BooksGoDirect.com.
Awesome. And then how about Amanda Byrd? Where can people find her stuff?
AmandaByrd.net.
Oh my God, you're making it so hard for people. Those
I know, right?
Those links will be over at starkreflections.ca. So Amanda, I normally usually try to end the interviews with sort of what's advice you would offer to beginning writers, but I'd like to spin that a little bit and say, what is advice that you would offer to authors who have not yet discovered the power of direct selling? What are some of the things that they should be thinking about or they should be trying to implement first?
Reader education. That seems to be the biggest hurdle, is reader education. I know on my podcast, and every chance I get, I try to educate readers about direct sales and how it benefits them and how it benefits the author. The biggest benefit for them is usually bonus materials, maps, all kinds of things that we can include in ebooks and or print books that we were essentially kind of unable to through retailers. Now, there's only one that charges a delivery fee retailer wise, but because ebook formatting can be kind of time consuming and a lot of us do it ourselves, we generally will do that just for our direct site. I know I do.
Right.
At least with some things I only do for my direct site because I know I don't have to worry about any kind of weird issues through retailers or anything like that. And then retailers have the ability to kind of screw us over, if you will, at their whim. This is what we signed up for, so we just have to take it. So yeah, reader education is probably the biggest hurdle. And that's what I try to educate other authors on too. Like, hey, we need to kind of band together and start educating our readers. And then kind of like, not really as an aside or a number two, probably in the same breath, because it's equally as important. I tell people to start looking into the different platforms and doing their research before they set it up, because we don't want people making the same mistakes that we did.
Right.
I am the queen of making mistakes. Whether I learn from them still has to be determined,
Of course.
depending on the platform. So, yeah. So it's like a 50-50 thing, the reader education and then the research on, the different platforms and what's going to benefit you the best.
Oh, awesome. Well, Amanda, thanks so much for spending the time with me today.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. Appreciate it.
As I mentioned prior to the interview, I'm always so thrilled when I see an author find a hole, find something that's missing in our industry, and seek to fill that hole. And they're doing it because obviously they see a need for themselves. And instead of waiting for someone else to do it, they step up to the plate, take it on, and decide they're going to solve this problem. I mean, when I think of a company, and I know I've mentioned this before in the podcast in recent weeks, but I have to reiterate, companies like BookFunnel, Damon Courtney saw a desperate need that authors had. And obviously, and Damon Courtney's BookFunnel helps with direct sales, with fulfillment of ebooks in a very, very sophisticated and author-easy manner. So that's what Amanda's doing here. So Books Go Direct, and even her partner, her friend, with the Audiobooks Direct, which, according to a lot of panic in the author community in the last week or so, based on some terms of service that kind of got a bunch of authors' noses out of joint with Spotify and Findaway Voices. There's a lot more authors who are looking for alternative opportunities for selling. So it's definitely worth checking out Books Go Direct, as well as I'm going to call it the sister or partner website. This is the Books Go Direct, and then you've got, and there's even a great link to it when I was checking it out earlier today, indieaudiobookdeals.com. But again, what a wonderful thing. There are holes that are filled by authors. My biggest concern, of course, we talked about this at the end of the interview, is when an author does this, how that takes them away from their own writing. I was so thrilled to see Randall Wood of ScribeCount, the sponsor for this episode, to see that Randall Wood had shared a picture. It was the end on a computer monitor, meaning that it's been a few years since he's actually finished a book, because he's invested so much of his personal time, energy, and lots of money in creating a platform like ScribeCount, again, to help fulfill a need where we can easily see all our sales in a single platform. So that's the first thing that I wanted to reflect on. The second thing is we talked, and I'm going to go back, we talked about how BookBub, when BookBub first launched, and I remember getting a BookBub early on for a book. It was so easy to get a BookBub. It cost me $300. I dropped a book down to 99 cents, and I remember it took me 6 hours to earn my $300 back. So that's 35 cents or 45 cents for that sale. So that, to give you an idea of the volume that I sold. And I ended up almost doubling my money. Not doubling my money, but I invested $300. I earned $600, so it was $300 ahead from that early days BookBub. So that's why when a platform like Books Go Direct launches, it's going to be, right now, in the early days, probably easier to get in, easier to be there when something happens. So there's always a challenge. And I talk with Joanna Penn about this all the time. Jo's always, 20 steps ahead of the curve. She's there, years before the rest of us are there with almost everything she's talking about on her podcast today. That's something that most of the rest of us will be figuring out in 2 years' time. So by the time we get there, Joe's been like, come on, what are you been waiting for? I've been waiting here for you. Come on, guys, catch up. But anyways, it's always tough to be so far ahead of the curve because you're there and it's not quite what it needs to be. You're there in the early days. You're checking it out. But the benefit of being there in the early days, especially with a platform like this, is that you can understand it, you can leverage it, you can get to know it better early on. Then when things pick up, when the big giant wave happens, it's kind of like you had a book on Amazon during the Kindle Gold Rush. A lot of books, even my earlier books where I didn't really have that much out there, they sold because there was nothing else to sell. So when they were looking for bargain books, it was easy to sell in those days. So imagine being on a place like AuthorsGoDirect, getting involved and booking a bunch of promos with them so that as it grows, as it suddenly explodes and it gets to that tipping point, that you're riding that wave rather than watching the wave from miles down, grabbing your surfboard and running out there and hope that the wave's still there when you finally get there. And it's a tough thing because, like I said, when you're there too early, it's sometimes frustrating because you're there out in the water waiting for the waves to come, but you're there. And when the wave happens, it comes. And that kind of leads back to the very last thing that I want to reflect on. And that's the old, I use this quote all the time. My good friend Kevin Anderson says, the more lightning rods I plant, the more lightning strikes. The luckier I get. The harder I work, the luckier I get. And it's one of those things of just continuing to work at the things that, making your writing, your books as good as possible, continuing to refine and reiterate and build upon and expand and learn and grow, and doing the things that are really important, that you're really passionate about, like writing those stories that really truly resonate with you. Because when that wave comes of the people who would resonate with that story, you've already got the perfect thing there and it's ready to go. You've got everything else in place, all of those buttons, all of those follow-ons in a series, etc. So that when that first book finally takes off, when you get it in the right promo, etc., that can really ride that wave all the way to the beach, laughing and screaming in joy and delight and all of those things. Well, that's it for my reflection. That's it for this episode. I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Amanda and about AuthorsGoDirect. And I hope if you haven't gotten into direct sales, that you're willing to at least listen to great folks like Amanda and others who are doing some amazing stuff when it comes to direct selling. Because that's, in my mind, what this is all about. It's about making your work available in as many different ways and platforms as possible, direct through as many retail and library platforms, so you can leverage that as much as possible and ride the various waves as they come in on the various different beaches. I'll play with this analogy. I will play with an analogy. You know that. I sometimes beat them back into the sand. But anyways, thanks again for listening. I do appreciate having you here. As I said, if you want to support the podcast, you can join the patrons who support this over at patreon.com/starkreflections, where you get access to additional bonus material for patrons. You can also leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts and share the podcast with somebody else that you think would enjoy it. So until next week, and until next episode, this is Mark Leslie Lefebvre wishing you, dear listener, great writing and good Stark Reflections.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.